Hi, Shell.
And hello to all your other wonderful waiters watching.
So, I may have made a mistake regarding this particular story, mainly because I'm struggling to grasp the font size, the font type, the font size of the book that I'm currently reading for Monday's review. So, I kind of can't read that without the audiobook to help. I thought I could use the nice font, the nice size text whilst I was at work. That was a mistake. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. It was not a good idea. Once I got back from my break at work, I felt wobbly, but not the about to pass out wobbly, but the type of wobbly that makes you feel a little squeamish, like squeamish wobbly. Like if you've just seen something in a movie that makes you squeamish, it sends that through your body. And for me, it was in my knuckles, in my elbows, in my knees, and in this particular instance, also across my belly. I felt so squeamish for the rest of my shift. Oh boy, that was not great. That was not pleasant. I had to smile through it. I would have my comfort blanket around me right now, but it's still summer and it's still boiling, so I can't wrap myself up in a blanket. So yeah, I got traumatized by a short story. Oh my goodness, I never learn. I never learn. I should have read it first thing in the morning on a day off so that I didn't have to work through the pain. So this week it was Snare, Bora Chung's, I believe, fifth. Yes, Bora Chung's fifth short story in this collection, and oh my goodness. The trigger warnings might indicate as to why I got very squeamish, because if I found out about the trigger warnings for this story, I would not have read it. I probably would have skipped it because it was very triggering and very I can do some gore, but this gore was completely horrifying on a different level. So the trigger warnings up front are animal abuse, child abuse, I would say domestic abuse at one point, but it's primarily out of the out of the child abuse that it kind of all stems from this one man's greed. Like, he does not care the damage he is doing to anybody, even his own family. The other trigger warnings are twincest and how do I put this? Has anybody seen or at least been dragged to see Breaking Dawn Part 1? Bella's horrific C-section at the very end of the movie. Just that. I don't know how to delicately put a trigger on that. But that certainly made me want to wrap myself up in a blanket and never come out and just hibernate until winter. Yeah. So this man we follow, it's a lot. I swear, the reason why I forget the protagonist names in these things is that a lot of these protagonists are unnamed. This is one of those stories that we have an unnamed protagonist. Nobody is named. So we have this man who finds a fox caught in a snare, and it's not even his snare. He just thinks, oh, I can sell the fur of this fox and have a meal, because he's not very well off. And so. Am I able to put this up here? The man is very taken aback when the fox says, "Please let me go." And so he's immediately stopped in his tracks to complete surprise, and he, instead of letting the fox go, he picks up the fox and the snare, puts it in his bag, keeps them in the back of his tool shed. And this is where the trigger warning of animal abuse comes in, because he really likes to not let the wound heal just to like gather gold, because that's why it's not because it's a talking fox, it's because it's not bleeding blood. It kind of, this fox was bleeding blood, and he even let it like solidify in the snow, and he bit on it and got that as pure gold. And he decided he was going to mine this gold from the fox, and it was just horrific to read. One man's greed to get out of poverty. It was horrific. He was pretty smart on how to go about getting out of poverty, because if a peasant turns up with fists full of gold, it's going to be a bit suspicious. So he goes to different towns, sells the gold, buys items so he can sell at the market. And he's like deemed a savvy businessman, an excellent trader of sorts, and he's able to get himself out of poverty. He built himself a house, a bigger shed to keep the fox, and he also got married. And about 3 years after that, the fox finally dies after so long of that torture. Because even in its final years, the fox didn't have enough energy to bark or bite back. And even though the fur was pretty in bad condition because the fox was so weak for so long, the wife accepted the first scarf that the man fashioned out of the fox. And because the fox died, he was a little worried about, well, finances, because the fox wasn't around to give him emergency fund of gold. And so he started anxiety buying, using his letting his anxiety to dictate his decision making in his business, which made it a bit of a financial issue. But because the woman had this fox scarf, she fell pregnant after 3 years of not having a child, and she gave birth to twins. And later on in the baby's development, the boy attacked his sister. Like, he went full on and bit her neck and tried to drink her blood. And as the mother was seeing to the neck wound of her daughter, she didn't realise that he was licking his fingers of all of the blood he managed to get. And then it happened again later on that day, that he went straight for her throat again. And when the mother was trying to separate the two burns, she nicked the forehead of the boy, and the man saw it. It was gold. So this is where it gets horrible. Because the man knows that after 2 attacks, the wife is not going to let these two out of her sight, as they already were, considering she is a very attentive mother. She's very lovely. But my goodness, this dad can just die in a ditch for all I care. Oh my god. So, the dad smuggles his twins out to his shed where he kept the fox, gagged his daughter and let the boy drink her blood, and then he would mine his son's golden blood. Mind you, he didn't jump straight to that conclusion. He just tested it with other blood, like chicken blood, cow blood, lamb blood. He went through it and tested it to see if blood is how you get this. He even tested his own blood. to no avail. But the daughter's blood, yeah, it can only be the daughter. It was quite horrific because he made such an attempt to make sure that he was the marks weren't going to be where other people had seen, so that the marks would not be visible to other people. And the wife, she is very worried about the marks that she does find on her children. And one night she wakes up to find her husband is no longer at her side in bed, and her children are no longer in the nursery or in the separate room, because they are actually separated to make sure that attack doesn't happen again. She finds out the children are gone as well, and she goes out to the shed after hearing screams. And so when she finally witnesses what her husband has been doing, she does the logical thing in trying to get her daughter away from them, because the son is just biting into his sister's leg, and the husband has a plate harvesting golden blood from his son, and it is quite a sight, I can say, for the mother of these two children. Gee, yikes. Anyways, so the husband manages to wrestle the daughter back from the mother, but in doing so, she gets knocked back. I always have this horrible feeling of hitting my head when I fall. This is playing on that fear and doubling it and then timesing it by 10, because her head lands in the snare that the fox was in, and the son starts drinking her blood. If you think it doesn't get worse, I thought it did. I thought it couldn't get worse than this. So upon seeing the death of her mother in such a brutal way, the girl stops speaking. The girl stops crying. The girl stops screaming when her father brings her brother to her and drinks her blood. And this whole thing becomes a rape allegory, because the father arranges the son to come into the daughter's room at night, and she is forced to just lie there. She just doesn't fight back because there's nothing she can do. She just lies there silently as the father takes measurement of how much the son is drinking of her blood. Not too much blood so that the daughter doesn't die, because that would spell disaster. If either of them died, it would spell disaster. So he keeps a very close eye on them as they grow up. So he tries to keep his son from sneaking in without him. Problem is, we get the horrific. The girl grows up to be a pretty girl. Like she grows up, and she's got some quite beautiful features, and so we have the horrific line of the son goes into her room not to drink blood, and the father is neglectful because he's going away on business trips, and he's trying to excuse his distance by saying it's necessary for the business. He can have all this fun and sample exotic women. Seriously, some characters are invented so that you wish they would fall into a wood chipper. He came back to find his daughter is heavy with child. So she's with child, quite far along in her pregnancy, and his conclusion, he does like lose it. He is furious, but he does try and play it off with everybody else just trying to hide his suspicion of who the father is. But at the same time, he's also thinking the child has to be put up for adoption, because he's got it in his head that because she just sits there and stares and wouldn't be much of that, she would be a terrible mother because of that. I mean, that is pretty harsh thing to do, but at the same time, I if you can get a child away from an abusive household, brilliant. The issue came about in the doctor that they picked. As he started like unpacking his bag of instruments to do a C-section, the girl finally breaks her silence and screams. She screams the place down to the point where all of his bottles break, which means there's no anesthesia. There's no anesthetic for her to take, because the man is instructing the doctor to continue with the procedure of, oh god, the son is fighting them to the point where he nearly kills the man, his dad, and he's really fighting for his sister and their child. I really need to puke. Because they finally get the boy, they finally get the son out and continue without the anesthesia, and she's screaming as, oh, I think this scene is a little too, it's not fully descriptive, but it was enough with my very vivid imagination to feel very wobbly inside, like everything just started to wobble. My bones wobbled. The son breaks down the door mid C-section, so that when the man comes to, he is staring into the dead eyes of his daughter, and he spends the rest of his days in a haunted house because there's no sign of his son or the baby. His servants take care of him, but they start going mad after seeing this golden glow of a ghost. And when they finally see what the ghost is, they are just driven mad by the sight and just driven to get out, and they start muttering, and the other servants either run away, they just get another job, they just want to leave, because they do not want to end up like the servants who've seen the golden ghost, and the ghost is of the daughter in the condition she died. It is a very haunting description of the ghost of the daughter. Eventually, she gets to her father's room, and he ends his nights alone, just in the company of his daughter's ghost, crying out, "Where is my baby?" And that just, he cannot leave his bed, and he's living like that. His final words, when the village people thought it was their duty to check up on the very savvy merchant of the town, when they find him, his last words end up being, "Please let me go." And the story continues with a epilogue about, very far away in a mountainside, there is a story of a man who ran away from the mountain because of what he saw. He saw a boy eating a young man, and the boy was ethereal and glowing. But when they came up to the mountain to investigate, there was nothing there. The one witness to it said that he was eating a giant gold lump from the young man's stomach. I was half expecting the fox to be reborn, not for it to continue on with human form, but oh god. Yikes. I just did not like this one. No, this one just triggered me. And I would have not read it if I'd known how affected I would have been by it. No, just no. Just cannot. I cannot. I'm wobbly again just by talking about it. But yeah, that was the Snare. I am not okay after reading it. It was very gory. It's a very cruel story. It's very cruel. And it was also very effective at displaying how greed turns people beyond cruel. It is beyond cruel. Because he is just, every time he looks at his children, or the fact that he's got to protect like the commodities that are his children, because he does not view them as people with their own free will and consciousness. He considers them his property and his wealth, and he even when he is wealthy again, he still is like, but what if I'm gonna need it just in case. It's pretty good at highlighting the lengths people go, and it probably does work with the gradual build to the ultimate cruelty. It's just this man being cruel for gold. Oof. If you see a fox in a snare, just let it go. It's not worth the risk. It's not worth letting an animal suffer. In fact, let it go. Put a bandage around its leg. Just befriend a fox. Don't bloody be cruel. Why are people cruel? It's one thing I don't understand about people. Yeah, this was a pretty haunting read that I probably wanted to skip, and I was even contemplating skipping this week's short story because I was having a hard time deciding whether or not I should talk about it, because I'm having a difficult time processing it, because it is something. I don't take cruelty well. Especially like this, that gets progressively worse, from a fox to his own children. It's just, and just how everything is a commodity to some people. I'm just gonna end it because I need to. I need to go. I need to be free of this story. But yeah, that was this week's short story. Bye, Shell.
And bye to all you other wonderful weirdos watching.